lads.
Be there in 2 ticks.
If we're going to grow, we need to steal other people's customers.
So actually the challenge for us is to be seen and be heard and cut through.
I think creativity is everything.
Good lad.
There is no better channel to try and generate cultural fame than TV. It's important that we hired people who represented the kind of Yorkshire graft.
And we put them out online, they flew.
And we buy Yorkshire Gold in the agency and we use it every day.
Black tea in the UK is a really interesting market because in many ways it's a disaster. You know, it has been declining steadily for years and there is no way that decline is going to stop.
And by the time we arrived on the scene in 2015, when we pitched for the business, they had managed to sort of climb their way up to number 3. But they had also hit a bit of a plateau, so they were now really no longer a small niche regional challenger. They needed to step up and take on the big boys of PG Tips and Tetley and try and challenge for certainly the number 2 and in time the number 1 spot in the market.
We know that we do really well with this kind of loyal bunch who like Yorkshire tea, and slowly but surely we were winning over people who had more of a propensity to switch. But to really grow, you really needed to stop preaching to the choir, which is, I think, what we've done a very good job of for a few decades, and realise that we don't want to alienate the choir, so you need to put a message out into the world that continues to please them and deliver the kind of brand that they've grown used to seeing. But we had to tweak our message and we had to just shift our focus to think, these people that don't consider Yorkshire tea, what do we need to do to get on their radar?
As we've got bigger and we've reached more and more people, actually the challenge for us was to be on for longer across a year. So we needed to move on from 3 or 4 big bursts a year to being always on. The role of television was to keep Yorkshire tea in people's minds, week in, week out. So we evolved from going 60s and 30s to shorter time lengths, 30s and 20s. But it's just a natural evolution actually, but we needed a creative vehicle to be able to do it.
Way back in, I think it was 2011, was when we first started to use this word proper.
And doing things proper means not cutting corners and going to the ends of the earth to try and make sure their product is genuinely better than everybody else's. So we wanted to try and make their properness culturally famous. We hired some of Yorkshire's most famous and loved celebrities to do fairly menial jobs around the Yorkshire Tea factory. So their new head of interviews was Michael Parkinson, because obviously he's very good at interviewing people.
How do you feel in your new job at Yorkshire Tea?
Well, I hope it lasts as long as the other job. Maybe 10, 20, 30 years, maybe.
Their new couriers were the Brownlee brothers, who are Olympic medal-winning triathletes, very good at getting things from A to B quickly.
Our day's been great so far at Yorkshire Tea. We've been delivering tea to all parts of the factory and helping out.
And for the whole music in reception, we hired the Kaiser Chiefs, who are a famous band, obviously, from Yorkshire, to literally perform the whole music live in reception.
How do you feel about your new jobs here at Yorkshire Tea?
Pretty easy. 3 bowls of sweets, that's not bad.
Good selection of mugs.
Sweets. You get a free box of tea every day.
Because if we have some fun with the idea that they do all these tiny, kind of slightly menial jobs proper, imagine how well they must make the tea.
Not yet.
Having, Olympic athletes run around the back of the building, simply just acting as couriers for a little parcel of tea.
Have you got those packages, lads?
Be there in 2 ticks.
Come on then.
The combination of the 3 ads feels like it's so much stronger than each one of those ads would have been alone, because it's not just about one person and it's not just about one idea.
Not yet.
Oh, sorry. It's you as gold, right?
Yep. Thanks for that.
Yorkshire Tea, where everything's done proper.
The Brownlee brothers were ridiculous. Like, we had them working in sort of freezing temperatures. They were filming all day long. Like, I was grumpy and I was fully clothed. They were in tri-suits or wetsuit. And sort of 12 hours later, nearly sort of 9 o'clock at night, they're filming in our factory and they were still enthusiastically asking questions about, is this where the tea bags are made? It's quite hard for the Kaiser Chiefs ad not to be my favourite because it's just got such a brilliant gag.
Good morning, Yorkshire Tea. Oh, he was meeting the farmers in Kenya. Let me just check if he's back. Just popping you on hold.
And when we were filming it, the crew, the spectating audience from Yorkshire Tea all cackled at the moment that happened, so you kind of knew that we had something.
Thanks for holding. Putting you through.
Yorkshire Tea, where everything's done proper.
Sorry.
The idea of an interview being done with that level of kind of care isn't far from the actual truth.
Would you like to come through, please?
Next up, a man who's come all the way from Wakefield on the 36 bus. He enjoys salsa dancing, Yorkshire cricket and Barnsley Football Club. Good lad. He's here today to convince us he's got what it takes to join our experts in the tea buying department. It's Ali Malik. Cup of tea? Sorry. So, man, tell me all about yourself.
Yorkshire Tea, where everything's done proper.
With Parky, he's a national treasure, so pretty much everybody loves him as well and respects him for being amazing at the thing that we brought him in to do.
Social media was a very good complement to TV. We released the films to our fans, just give them a little bit of a few hours heads up so they could start sharing the work, which they did. And so actually at launch, the Brownlee brothers delivered tea.
We got them to do an idea we had called Deliver Brew, which was basically working with the Deliveroo concept but applying it to tea. And we kind of added an element of competition. So we had one of the Brownlee brothers in Leeds and one of the Brownlee brothers in London. And by the end of the day, the idea was to just clock up to see who had actually managed to deliver the most tea.
How many of you actually delivered? Apparently, we're a few behind you. I've been working very hard, so... So we've got another 20 minutes left. May the best man win. Bye. Bye-bye.
If you didn't really understand the strategy, it didn't matter because it was still just a lot of fun and it was a spectacle. We were still leveraging this idea that, like, when we do something, we do it properly.
We won!
And actually, since that campaign ran, we have launched their Biscuit Brew, which is a product they've made which tastes of biscuits. And to do that, we decided we would create the world's largest biscuit dominoes run.
Let's do this.
So we made 5,000 biscuits. We put them in a row, for real, in the factory.
I think the absolute holy grail on social media is when a consumer shares your content, because it's one thing to bother to watch something, it's one thing to bother to comment, but to actually say, I like this so much, I'm prepared to make it my content and share it with my audience, that's amazing. And that happened a lot with these ads.
Our objective, as I said earlier, was to reach as many people who are non-Yorkshire tea drinkers as possible.
So Proper Switchers was built on profiling non-drinkers of Yorkshire tea, so they weren't currently with us. They had to be drinking other branded tea, not own label, so they're brand motivated.
This is a frequent purchase. It's made every week or every couple of weeks, and we wanted to make sure we reached all our audience, if we could, as often as possible. In total, we were present on TV 27 weeks out of 52.
So we're very specific in the sorts of programme we were going into. It wasn't a case of allocating a certain spend, it was how can we efficiently get that incremental cover on top of our linear TV viewers as well. So actually video on demand came in for the first time this year as well.
We really started to see sales and share, of course, moving up very, very quickly.
I think when I first started looking at share figures, we were about 13% or something. So when we had reached the kind of heady heights of the sort of early 20s, we were, kind of just thinking, if we could just get to a point where we're like level pegging with Tetley, wouldn't that be incredible? I think within 4 months of the campaign airing, I was in a room having a conversation about the fact that we'd become the #2 tea brand.
Obviously, this is a product that British people love. They love their tea. I think 36 different news outlets actually covered that story on a national basis. So I think the ads were shared 68,000 times on social media. And 5.7 million people will have seen those as a result. YouGov, who do their sort of annual buzz index to talk about the top 10 most talked about brands in Britain, actually had us at number 6 for the year, I think it was.
We've gone for a shift on Yorkshire tea where it always used to be about the profit ROI. And up until this campaign, it had always been north of £1, which is hugely impressive for any brand, let alone FMCG brand. But we were delivering effective growth. Their value sales were continuing to rise. And the reality is, after you've got the low-hanging fruit, you've got to climb a bit higher. And we're at that point now where we're getting the people that are going to be harder to reach, harder to convert. But if you get them, you're getting the sale. So actually value sales for us is becoming the important driver now.
And what was wonderful to see was that all of the core tracking metrics, so this is a company that does things proper, this tea is high quality, and so on. They went up for everyone, but they went up most for non-drinkers. So they went up most amongst the people that we needed to reach, the new audience that we needed to bring into the brand. Kantar switcher data, which we had after the campaign ran, showed that £6.3 million worth of sales moved into Yorkshire Tea from the other brands in the market. So those changes in perception really did seem to move straight into behavioural change, and we could see that in the huge upward trajectory of our share in the market. Our objective was about cultural fame for what's ultimately an inside story about how a company operates. And I think there is no better channel to try and generate cultural fame than TV. If you can get it right, you reach so many people in such a shared sort of experience and shared channel.
It's becoming a brand that's been built on TV, and it's through the fame that that generates. So it does a multitude of things.
I guess it shows that even in very habitual FMCG markets where perhaps the engagement with a product or a brand seems like it's quite low, people are, as we said, sleep shopping the aisle every week and just putting the same old thing in the basket. The right idea and the right channels can make people change their behaviour, and that's still ultimately what advertising is about, changing things in people's heads and changing their behaviour as a result.
I'd never believed that I'd be sat here, thinking that we're within 2% of being the #1 brand in the country, but we are close. We are that close. So, if we can follow this campaign up with something even funnier, then I think we'll clinch it.
The really gratifying thing is to have taken this brand that I think a few people loved very, very much and make it something that the rest of the country was talking about.
I'm just very proud of it as an agency, and personally very proud of it as well. And now we get Monkey.